Welcome to the Science and Paranormal with Dr. Yana and Dr. Elliot, where science meets the unexpected, where we delve deep into the mysteries that straddle the line between scientific inquiry and paranormal. Get ready for a mind-altering journey as we embark on this phenomenal discovery together on United Public Radio Network 107.7 FM.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Science and Paranormal. We are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network, UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 FM out of New Orleans, and also on Rope TV. Tonight we have a very special guest with us, don't we, Dr. Yana?
We have an incredible guest today. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And our fantastic guest is Leonard, Lyn Buchanan.
I just lost my picture. Excuse me.
Oh, we can see you, Lyn. We can still see you.
I have no picture.
Oh, of yourself.
Oh, there we have.
Oh,
okay.
There.
Sorry about that.
We got to have our own picture, right? We got to be able to see ourselves. Well, hello, Lyn.
How are you? I'm certainly glad you invited me. It's an honor, really. Thank
you very much. The honor is ours. And I have been seeing you on TV, on different broadcasts and videos and interviews. And I've been wanting to talk to you. And here you are. I am going to tell our audience a little bit about you. You are the author of The Seventh Sense. You are the retired Sergeant First Class who served in the United States Army and a founding member of the International Remote Viewing Association.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And as a remote viewer, you served as a trainer in the United States Army Remote Viewing Unit from 1984 to 1992. And you currently serve on the board of directors of IRVA and lead a controlled remote viewing training enterprise based in New Mexico.
Right.
You know, I was thinking about what is the seventh sense. And of course, reading your book, you mentioned there that it is a seventh sense, not the sixth sense that is so commonly believed, right? Because the psychic sense is not the sixth sense. It is the seventh, you're saying.
Yeah. The sixth sense, your body has nerves that are just sheaths of water, really. And they act as antennas. And someone walks into the room angry, they're giving off these vibes, and you pick them up, and you feel it. They walk into the room happy, you feel it, and the room gives you the ambiance, and you feel the ambiance of the room. And this is your sixth physical sense. It's actually a physical sense. And when you get to where you can feel the emotions and all that of someone halfway around the world, now that's your seventh sense. That's the psychic sense.
So around the world, the sixth sense is, we can be talking about intuition, telepathy, clairvoyance, precognition, and psychokinesis.
No, not really. Those are all part of the seventh sense. The sixth sense is what you feel around you in the room.
Uh-huh.
And like I say, someone enters the room and they're very angry, you feel it. Even though you don't look up, you feel the change in the room around you. And this is your nerve, the nerves of your body, picking up the signals from your surroundings. And that is a physical sense. It's called ambiance.
And Can everyone learn how to feel it? Can everyone develop the seventh sense?
The seventh sense, yes. Yeah. So far, we haven't found anyone who can't. We found a lot of people who won't, um, for many reasons. They have a psychic experience for the first time in their life and it scares them. They don't want to come back. Or they have, for religious reasons, for religious beliefs, they think, I do anything psychic, I'm going to hell, and 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 things like that. And so there are people who will not learn. We've never found anybody who can't.
Well, that is a very interesting concept that people can't. I know that in your book, The Seventh Sense, you talk about also the sort of the side, not really the side effects, but the drawbacks of remote viewing,
Oh yeah,
and not everyone should be performing this activity, of course, without some additional training to that. You're saying that you will not even train anybody until they go through, learn the specific protocol to be able to protect themselves.
yeah. We teach the protection protocols in the remote viewing because when you expose yourself to some of the things that are out there in the world, um, some of those things are not pleasant, and some of those things are unpleasant to the point where they can give you nightmares. They can really uh, change your attitude toward life, even. And so we teach, as part of our course, we teach self protection.
I think self-protection techniques is something that most people are interested in. I know
Oh
last
yeah,
year when I organized the 2023 Halifax Paranormal Symposium, I had sent out a survey to all of our attendees. And one thing that came up that they wanted to find out more about for this year was mediumship and protection techniques, or
right.
like like you said, whenever you're exposing yourself, whether you're doing mediumship work or remote viewing work or
Mhm.
precognition work, people want to know how to protect themselves. So I find that very interesting and very good that you teach some of those techniques.
Well, you just about have to, especially and in the military, we were exposed to some horrible targets, and yeah, we had to learn how to protect ourselves.
So, what are some typical things that somebody can do if they want to, if they are practicing spiritual techniques like remote viewing or
One
extrasensory
thing,
perception? What are some?
one thing, Ingus One developed this method that was used by the military, and one of the hard and fast rules he had was uh, describe, don't identify. Don't try to name the target. Just describe what you feel, what you see, and all that. And when it comes to people, he said, describe, don't identify with them. Don't try to become one with that person because you don't know that person's political agenda, their religious faith. What if their faith is that, hey, you go kill Americans, you'll get 77 virgins, and you don't want to pick up on that stuff, and you don't want to become one with a person. You want to stand up and observe the target at all times.
You are saying in your book that the person, the remote viewer, kind of gets sucked in into the emotional states of the target.
That
What?
can happen. Yeah,
Why is it dangerous?
it's
And why is
dangerous.
it so difficult to get out of that state as well?
It's so difficult to get out of it because you get emotionally involved, and so in the training that we give, we start saying, if you start feeling the emotions, of the target, uh, take a break, get out. And if you can't go back without it happening again, then call the session, end it, because there's no target worth losing the viewer for. Uh, and so um, we have a monitor that usually watches the viewer and takes notes as they watch. And if the viewer starts showing emotions, they will interrupt the session. Also, the target will say, that person is angry, that person is bad, and he feels this, he feels that, the other, and we don't like that. And all of a sudden, it changes from he to we, and the monitor breaks it right there because you have just identified with the target. And you don't want to become one with the target.
This is very similar to hypnosis, in fact, because when I put people under, that is something, the reaction, the emotional states, for example, that they get themselves involved in could be their own, also, of course, either past emotional states or something from the past lives that we are doing with them. And it is called something, the app reaction. And of course, you have to have a professionally trained person to observe. It is something would be as a monitor that you have that will be monitoring the situation and bringing the viewer out of that state for him
Right,
not to identify with the target.
right.
And
And
I have been doing that wrong. In fact, myself, when I would be able to see and assess the situation at the distances, I would, in fact, get in the shoes of that person, and I would get so much information about that. But I never once was leaving that state with emotions, with the emotional burden of that person. So,
right,
uh, in which cases it is possible to get emotionally entangled with the object?
right.
You
And
had mentioned Ingo Swan earlier. Did you work with him at all?
oh yeah, I like Ingo. He's a good friend. Yeah. Uh-huh.
He had some interesting remote viewing perceptions. The one that I
Oh
liked
yeah.
is one that he did with Jupiter before Pioneer
Right.
10 had flown by. He had seen rings around Jupiter and
Mhm.
could see the storm on Jupiter. And he
Hmm.
really good uh, perceptions that were quite accurate on that one.
He found out 17 years later that they were accurate. Right.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
No.
everyone found out 17 years later that he was accurate.
Yeah. He did a lot of work too with Russell Targ
Yeah.
at the Stanford Research Institute.
Yeah. Russ and Hal
Al.
Puthoff. Hal
Yeah.
Puthoff. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Did you end up doing any experiments with those guys?
Oh yeah. Hmm. Well, not formal experiments with them, but yeah, I know them quite well. Uh, I never did any experiments out at Stanford. Uh, no, they did give us targets. Uh, we call them targets. Okay, sites to view and all that. And so we sort of suspected that this was part of experiments that we did there at Fort Meade, uh, Maryland. And so unknowingly, we may have worked experiments with them, but I didn't go to their lab and uh, work experiments there. I've been there, but only to visit with them.
Well, that
Really?
was it a Stargate project, Lynn?
Stargate was one of the last names that the remote viewing unit had. It was classified, and so it went under a name until that got discovered and people knew what the name was. And then all of a sudden, we would get a
Mhm.
thing saying, this unit has been disbanded. It doesn't exist anymore. Uh, but don't clear out your desk because we're starting a new unit tomorrow. And they would give us another name that nobody knew what it was. And it officially went under 7 names.
Yes, it looks like it was Gondola Wish, Stargate, Grill Flame, Center Lane Project,
Centerlane.
CF, yeah, the Sunstreak.
Yeah.
The Stargate project, well, under the one, I believe, umbrella terms of Stargate project, was a secret U.S. Army unit established in 1977 in Fort Meade.
Hmm.
This is where you used to work, I understand,
Yeah.
by the Defense Intelligence Agency and SRI International to investigate the potential for psychic phenomena in military and domestic
Hmm.
intelligence applications. So you were there from the very beginning.
No, actually, it was in existence for 10 years, actually, before I got there.
So, if you can disclose it to us, what brought you there? Were you interested in this project or you were brought in?
Um, if you've ever seen the movie The Men Who Stare at Goats, George
Yes,
Clooney
Clooney,
uh,
yes. Was
played
inspired
played
by it,
Lyn,
yes.
right? That part in it where Lyn walks through the computer room and all the computers die. That's sort of a uh, misrepresentation of what actually happened. Uh, I have since childhood had these PK abilities or curse, if whatever you want to call it. Um, it was one of those, I think they call them poltergeist kids, where they get angry and things fall off shelves and all that.
Yeah.
And
Uh-huh.
and that's fairly common actually. And when it happened to me, uh, I thought it was neat, and I started trying to develop it, and I did. And anyway, that has sort of been with me all my life. And at the field station in Augsburg, Germany, this thing happened where I had been chosen to write a very complex computer program that would tie the computers of 12 countries together so that they could share information. And so this other sergeant wanted that job. I got it. I got chosen for it. And so after 6 or 8 months, I had the program written, and we had the commanding generals of all 12 countries there in the room to see the demonstration of it. And I went to the bathroom to check and make sure my hair was in place and my creases, no wrinkles in my uniform and all that.
Yes.
Came back, gave my little song and dance, and hit the enter button to start the program, and the computer went dead.
Mm.
And all of a sudden, here were all these commanding generals laughing at me. And I turned around, and this other sergeant was at the back door, and he said, "Gotcha." And turned around and walked. I got flaming angry, and when I did, uh, not only the entire field station went down, but I found out many years later that uh, I'm hearing that background noise again. I'm hearing. I found out years later that the intelligence computers on both sides of the wall, East Germany and West Germany, went down. Also, intelligence computers more widespread than that, and we had actually no intelligence gathering on the border for an amount of time that's still classified. And so General Stubblebine, the head of the Intelligence and Security Command, uh, came and got me and wanted me to go into a unit that would start learning how to destroy enemy computers. Well, Congress said, absolutely not. We're not funding anything like that. They got caught in the 60s in mind control. And they said, that's mind control. We're not going to do that. And so he had nothing to do with me then. So he took me out to the remote viewing unit and put me in there. And that's how I got into the remote viewing unit.
But then he subsequently was placed into retirement. And why did that happen to him?
Bert had, General Stubblebine had some problems, not total senility, but he had he was getting old, and the some of the problems that come with age were getting to him, and he had made enemies within the ranks. He was extremely good, and he got promoted past other would-be generals, and they didn't like that, and so they took that opportunity to just sort of.
Of course, that is most of the time is the case. And
Oh yeah,
then after him, Major General Harry Soyster, who replaced him, he had a reputation of a pretty conservative person and
yeah.
conventional intelligence officer. So pretty much that program ceased to exist.
Well, uh, many of many of many of Bert's programs did cease to exist. Um, there was a meeting at the Defense Intelligence Agency where uh, it was to end our program, and a higher authority came in and said, "No, it stays," and so we didn't get the axe.
So how many years did you spend in the remote viewing program?
I was there 8.5 years before I retired.
And what year did you retire?
1983, I think it was 1983. I think it was. Yeah.
That was a fantastic year. That was the year Dr. Elliott was born.
Oh, really?
In the retirement, so but the program was dismissed in 1992
It was, I
or
think,
95.
officially.
I think
Uh,
officially was 1995, probably.
it was sort of revealed and uh, unofficially declassified, and then it was finally cleared out.
Some of the declassified documents, they state that the foregoing observations provide a compelling argument against the continuation of the program within the intelligence community. Even though
Well,
a statistically significant effect has been observed in the laboratory,
yeah,
it remains unclear whether the existence of a paranormal phenomenon, remote viewing, has been demonstrated. The
yeah.
laboratory studies do not provide evidence regarding the origins or nature of the phenomenon, assuming it exists, nor do they address the important methodological issue or inner judge reliability. Um,
There's a
Nevertheless,
little there's a little skullduggery going on behind that too. Um, they asked for our um, the AIR, um, American Intelligence. Uh, I forget what AIR stands for. Uh, AIR research group. Uh, did not have the clearance to see our work. And so they ordered a copy of all of our work so that they could study it and evaluate it. Well, they couldn't see the classified work, so we gave them our practice targets and had huge boxes of practice targets. They made their assessment, and when one of our people went to pick up the documents to take them back, they found out that the boxes had never even been opened. So the assessment was done without ever looking at any of our work. It was a
Because
hatchet job.
it was already predetermined and the judgment was made to close the program. And of course,
Uh,
that would be the verbiage that they would use.
yeah,
That it was
that judgment was made before any studies were ever done. Yeah.
because many projects were deemed untrustworthy by government by saying that no applicable usage that they represented for the U.S. government.
Right. Well, I personally can see the reasoning behind it. You have re- greatly reduced funding because the Cold War was over and the funding had gone down to bare minimum. And you have field agents who are out there risking their lives for years, and you have to get rid of programs. Well, you're going to get rid of those field agents? I hope not. You get rid of the other, uh, you know, less visible or not visible, but the less operative units, and that was us. So I see the logic behind it, really.
And of course, the entire program, the Stargate program, was project was started in response to the in 1970s of the United States intelligence sources believing that the Soviet Union was spending 60 million rubles annually on psychotronic research, and then we had to do something as well. And what it was stated later when the program was dismissed that there was no need for that,
Well, like I
and that
say, the program.
Russia did not represent any threat. These are the exact words from the documents at the
Well,
time.
the document is for public broadcast. Russia did.
It
Uh,
did at that time, it still did. So why would the American government state
yeah,
that it did not represent any threat at the time?
at the time. Yeah. Well, it did. Uh, the KGB has always. What's the old saying in Russia? The more things change, the more they stay the same. Uh, uh,
I think it is
yeah.
like this everywhere as well. But if there was a threat, and if you're saying that there was a threat, why would the American government close the program? I know that you say that there were lots of field officers on the other end, of course, but if there was a threat, why did that program cease to exist? Was essentially
The program, like I said earlier, was closed uh, 7 times. Now, by that time, I was retired. People ask me, um, is there still a program just under another name? And the fact is, when you retire, they quit telling you secrets. So I don't know. But my standard answer is I hope that there is still a program like that because we saved a lot of lives. We saved a lot of government money. We saved a lot of battles from happening.
Mhm.
And we did a lot of good. And so, in my opinion, it would be stupid to not have a program like that now.
I was just going to ask you that. If
Well,
you thought that
the,
there is a program on the go, for
well,
you'll hear
the
about it.
thing is, it would be stupid not to have. The question is, does our government ever do anything stupid? And so I don't know the answer.
I'm taking the fifth, guys.
No, that is interesting. Like you said, governments do make bad decisions all the time.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that was one of my questions: is if you think that the government still uses remote viewing.
Yeah,
Um,
and the
I think
answer
when
is
they declassified
I honestly don't know. Yeah.
I think one of the things they said when they finally did declassify Stargate is they tried to say that they had tried remote viewing and it wasn't that great and it wasn't that
Oh yeah.
successful, basically.
Right.
But I know there were still parts of like Stargate that were classified. So
Yeah.
again, why are certain parts still classified if it wasn't, if it was all what do they say, woo woo?
Oh yeah. There's a lot of it still classified, and the thing is, the English one technique is, I mean, absolutely anti woo woo. It is. It is highly scientific. It's based mainly on martial arts. Uh, in fact, remote viewing, the controlled remote viewing that Ingo developed, is not psychic. Uh, your subconscious mind has psychic ability, and the protocols that Ingo Swan created are nothing more than a way to interview your subconscious mind, find out what it knows, get it back, and report it. And so the process itself is nothing more than interview and report. And in fact, you can teach it to an interviewer or a show host or something. And if they take those same rules, they become very fantastic in interviews. And you can teach it to psychiatrists, and they learn how to not give um, false memory syndrome, cause false memory syndrome, because they interview and cleanly report. And so the process itself doesn't require psychic ability. It accesses the psychic ability that's there in your subconscious mind. It doesn't make you psychic at all.
So, what is
Very
the difference then between the psychic in our understanding, common understanding, and the remote viewer?
The between using a
Between
noun, between a noun using a psychic
a
and a
psychic,
remote viewer.
a remote viewer, because, for example, when you
Yeah,
started, and as you were known in the army to possess certain abilities, perhaps
yeah.
you were called a psychic. And like you said, that
Hmm.
word was used interchangeably and was still used as a psychic. And
I
then,
know, and we don't use that. We never use that.
or maybe I just misheard what you just said earlier. But so you had certain abilities then, and then you developed and you participated in that program of remote
Hmm.
viewing with the set protocols, of course.
Hmm.
So is the usage of the protocols and lack of certain innate abilities is the difference between psychics that have essentially the gifts of intuition and the remote viewers who were trained, who did not previously have any gifts of
Hmm.
distant viewing, let's just say remote viewing.
Actually, everyone has the ability
Hmm.
in their at the subconscious level. Everyone has some kind of intuition in some amount, and the difference between using nouns here, I say I am psychic. That's an adjective. I am not a psychic. That's a noun. I'm not a psychic. I'm a remote viewer. And the difference between them is a psychic has the natural conscious ability to listen to their own subconscious mind and get those feelings out. A remote viewer uh, goes through a protocol that lets them access it under control. In fact, it's called controlled remote viewing. Now, I know out there right now, everything psychic is called remote viewing. It's the new buzzword. But the controlled remote viewing was a protocol that lets you access your subconscious mind, and that's all it is, really. That's why anybody can learn it.
So, Lynn, all those people that come to you to go through your control remote viewing program in New Mexico, where you live, what is the percentage of them that succeed in remote viewing? Can all of them learn the techniques and are able to see?
I have not seen anyone who hasn't learned. Now, like I say, some of them, it's a lot of work, and the protocol is can become very complex. But not everyone sticks with it because it's not for everyone. Those who have stuck with it have done fantastic work and are still doing fantastic work. Um, but I've had people come and had success and gone home and haven't heard from them for 5 or 8 years. And then they come back and they say, it's time for me to start working now because I, I'm learning the importance of what this is. And so I never charge anyone to come back. Uh, Once they paid for the training, they come back, finish up their training, and that's it. Uh, so the go ahead.
One of our listeners has an interesting question for you there, Lynn. Have you or anyone else that you worked with ever um, viewed your own death through remote viewing?
There's one of the trainers who gives that task to people. Uh, I've done it myself, but I would not give that task to any of my students or anyone else. Um, you know, and the thing is, when it comes to viewing the future, there's a thing called paradoxical tasking, where you make yourself wrong. And that is, let's say I view myself tomorrow evening, and I find that tomorrow evening I'm lying dead in the morgue on a slab because I was in a car wreck. Then guess what? I'm not getting in the car. Okay.
Lynn's not going driving tomorrow.
But that makes my viewing wrong. Okay. And so there have been many times where they've asked me to, predict the next drug crossing, the next terrorist attack, and all this, and I've worked it, and given that information to the authorities, they have prevented it from happening, thereby making me wrong, but knowing that it would have happened if they hadn't.
Right.
And
Very,
I'm
very
in those
interesting.
cases, I'm happy to be wrong.
Yeah. No, that's so true. And you don't. It's almost like they say when you work in the CIA. A lot of times you don't hear about their successes because they were able to afford a
Oh
plan.
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But I was just thinking, even with the recent assassination attempt of President Trump, if there was a remote viewing, that might be something that the government would be going to that unit right now to say, like, when do you guys see the next, assassination attempt occurring?
Yeah,
And like you said, now you know where to focus your law enforcement resources on.
we've done that with other presidents. Yeah,
Yeah,
while I was in the unit. Yeah.
interesting.
Unless there is a conspiracy to deliberately make it happen, that is whatever has to deal with politics is such a dark meaning dark place where we cannot really go and know what exactly is happening there. But if I can come back to also to future viewing, that you mentioned that, for example, if there's a car crash tomorrow, that you're not going to get in the car. But if there a possibility that if that day has to come, for example, tomorrow, not for you,
Mhm.
but for somebody else, let's just put it that way, is it possible that the end of life is going to be caused by another incident because the end has come and that is the date that you saw?
Well, that would be my second viewing. Absolutely. Yeah, if I don't get in the car, then what's going to happen? If I stay home, what's going to happen?
Well,
Um,
because for the future viewing that I had done, uh, most of the time, if it didn't happen in a certain way, because people would definitely want to avoid certain situations, they would happen regardless, but from the different angle.
that can be. Yeah, I think some things are meant to be. We have an analogy called a bug on the pond of time, and the analogy goes that you're a bug on the pond of time, and you see another bug across the pond, and you think that would make a good meal. So you go skittering across the pond. The wake you set up scares the other bug away, and it's not there when you get there. But it was sitting by a rock, and that rock is still there. There are rocks in the pond of time, things that you can't change. There are other things that you can change, and so the future is very changeable. If there's a comet or an asteroid heading for here, I can't change that. you know,
That would be so good to know which rocks are which, right?
that's right.
Yeah, that's a very fascinating, concept as well. Yeah, our same listener has another question for you there, Lyn.
Okay.
Bravo. He asked if you're familiar with the former U.S. Air Force weather observer Charles Hall and his experience when he said that he saw these tall whites, believed to be extraterrestrials. Have
Uh,
you heard anything
I'm
about?
not familiar with Charles Hall.
No,
Uh,
with
with the
that
tall
leads me to
whites,
another.
yeah, but not Charles Hall.
Tall whites. Okay, that leads me to my question. Have you guys, when you were on the remote viewing program, used it to see if there's extraterrestrials or communicate with extraterrestrials?
Okay, picking words closely here. We were never officially tasked with any ET or UFO targets.
Never officially tasked. Okay,
Right.
so,
Or that you can reveal,
so have you?
disclose.
So
Now, if a
have
four-star
you?
general, walks up to your desk and says, "Sergeant, I want you to view this," what are you going to say? No. Uh, you know, we were never officially tasked with UFO or ET targets.
Never officially tasked with them. Have you? What's your opinion? Do you think we're alone or not, or do you think there's extraterrestrials out there?
Oh no, sure they're there. Yeah, absolutely. There's no question about it.
And do you think that there's, a lot of abductees speak about different, versions of extraterrestrials? We hear about the Greys, the
Oh yeah,
Tall White, the reptilians. Do
yeah.
you believe that there's different species out there?
Well, not only different species, but also different, uh, the same species, members of the same species, reptilians, may come from widely different planets. And so we like to think of us and them. The fact is, there's us and them 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 and them. And there are many thems. And each has its own agenda. And so you can't say, what do the Greys want? Well, the Greys from there want one thing, and the Greys from there want something else. They're here for different reasons. Um, I was tasked at one time to do a study specifically on the perceived or evidenced psychic abilities of the ETs compared and contrasted to human psychic abilities. I did a long paper and was given a lot of information that never made it into Grudge or the Blue Book or whatever. And um, I came up with the conclusion that you can divide the ETs into 4 categories when it comes to psychic ability. Uh, the those who are more psychic than we are, and those who are equal or less psychic than we are. That's 2 categories. In those 2 categories, you have those who are antagonistic to us and those who are friendly to us. So that's 4 categories. The ones who are equal or less than we are and friendly are basically here for materials, for trade and all that. The ones who are less psychic than we are and antagonistic to us don't tend to come here. The ones who are more psychic than we are and friendly actually want us to develop our abilities. I couldn't figure out why on that. Those who are antagonistic to us and more psychic than we are just want us wiped off the planet. They don't want us around, period. And through different studies, as I continued to study these different evidences, I finally came to a conclusion. It's because okay, a UFO comes and they want to abduct you. All right, you can see them on the horizon. They come and all that. They land. They come right over you. You freeze and you're abducted. All right. They have more psychic ability, but they have no range. They have to be right over you. We can see across time and space just like we can see across a room. When we get into space, if we develop our abilities, we're going to be a power in the universe, a major power. And that's why the unfriendly ones don't want us out there, and the friendly ones want us to develop before we go out. And that was my conclusion on that paper. So I turned that in, and it's probably somewhere in that uh, long place that the what's the Australian guy that ended with that show where it shows this long warehouse with all the boxes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So it got classified, and I haven't seen that paper since. But that's basically what I determined from the studies I was doing. Yeah.
Well, if it is, of course, it is your intellectual property and you can publish it or not.
I won't.
You won't.
No, I believe in classification. I really do. I believe in secrets.
That is absolutely is the case, and I support you in that because I remember, not that I was living at the time, the head of the CIA, Alan Dulles, at the time when he was the head of the CIA, he said the reason why we're not succeeding and the Russians are the KGB is because we cannot keep our mouths shut. He
Right.
wrote it in his book, and that's exactly is the case. You have to be able to keep the secrets.
You have to. There are some things that should be kept secret. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's worse today, especially we're going to see probably get a lot worse with the generations. They're having trouble getting today's generation just to finish off a full-time shift, let alone I would say keeping secrets. You'll probably see a lot of whistleblowers and things coming out there in the future. What part of what types of things do you think that the government should hold back when it comes to extraterrestrials? Like the technology that they use, or like their agendas. What kind of things do you think that should be held back?
Yeah, the technology is working its way into our society very slowly. Um, um, Stephen Greer held a press conference, and one of his basic, most important lines that he said in that was that we don't have to fear the ETs that are here. What we have to fear is the humans that have their technology now. And that's very true. Um, the technology is here, it's known, it's understood, and it's being used. But who is it being used by? That's the big question. And the answer is not always a good answer. Yeah.
Is it possible, Lynn, to set the protection over the object or psychic protection over the object or over a person or over a big area that the essentially the psychic defense that the remote viewers of other countries cannot see it?
Yes, it is. That was a standard task that we had to develop. They wanted us to be able to do that. We found a way to do that, but you have to be extremely well developed as a controlled remote viewer to do it. And there are not many people who are that extremely well developed. But
The
yeah,
reason
it's possible. Yeah. Mhm.
the reason why I'm asking this is because Dr. Elliot and I we did a experiment with students one day. Excuse me, when I was the target, and his students had to look, identify where I am, what I was doing at the time. And I said, of course, we said the time and the date, and the students were watching, except I had one external variable.
Mhm.
When in the morning I had a very unpleasant encounter in the store with a woman that was essentially attacking me psychically, and I could feel it, and I immediately closed off. So I did the psychic defense on myself. And then I totally forgot to let Dr. Elliot know that I also, a couple of years back, I set the psychic defense on my house as well. And I
Mhm.
forgot about it. So the students, including Dr. Elliot, and Dr. Elliot was the closest one, I believe, he was able to see what is outside of my house in detail, but was not able to see what was inside. And
Yeah.
that was the time when I remembered what happened in the morning and the defense that I set on the house as well,
Right.
because what the Dr. Elliot saw was a precise description of my surroundings that are outside of the house.
And there was one student that had participated in a remote viewing exercise similar to this, and was, fairly accurate. He said with this particular exercise, he actually used
Yes.
that word. He said it was almost like he had like a mental block, and he
Yeah.
said he was having trouble trying to basically see the symbols and the signs, and his description was off, but he actually noted that he was having difficulty and felt like there was like a mental block again.
Yeah. That's an easy thing to do. And here again is a difference between a natural psychic and a quote remote viewer and a controlled remote viewer. In the military unit, we were constantly uh, trying everything and developing everything. And we found a way to break through any protection scheme that anyone has. And
Oh,
so for
Lynn,
a
we have
parent,
to come. Dr. Elliot and I just have to come to your classes in order to learn that.
no, I don't teach that. But yeah, we found a way. We had targets that were protected by voodoo, by psychics, by some highly trained psychics, highly skilled psychics, And each time, well, it's like like you a hacker. You protect yourself from a hacker. It's just going to cause them to, hey, find a new way. And over the just about 20 years that we were in, that we had the unit there. Uh, oh yeah, we loved it when there was a target we couldn't get to, and we would find a way to break that protection. So um, um, we finally came to the conclusion that we could not find any more protection that we couldn't get through. There are protocols to do it.
That's very interesting. I know with like extrasensory perception, there's no limitation on distance. I would assume that remote viewing is the same way. Especially, there's been cases where they found a shipwreck at the bottom of the sea through remote viewing that
Oh yeah,
equipment actually failed to find. So if
yeah.
somebody was hiding in like an underground bunker or inside like a Faraday cage or something like that, do you still think that it's possible to pick up where they're at?
Oh yeah, piece of cake. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because I know there was a electronic voice phenomena study done as well, where they had the devices inside a Faraday cage, so that there could be no, you could rule out that outside,
Hmm.
interference, and they were still
Yeah.
able to capture voices on the
We
recording.
were uh, we were taken to Los Alamos one time for testing, and they hooked us up to a magnetoelectroencephalograph, which is in a moo metal room. No signal, not even the Earth's magnetic field, can get through into that room. It's a totally pure room, and they had us remote view a one of the assistants who was on another floor of the building at the far end of the building looking at a TV screen. And we were able to report every time they changed what was on the screen, we were able to report what was on that screen. So, uh,
Wow.
That program should not have been closed.
I hope it wasn't. I hope it just changed to another name that I don't know and continued on, but who knows?
Well, if there was a pattern to do that previously, then many people believe that it closed before, but nevertheless it's transmutated into something else. So let's just believe that it continues to exist.
Well, you can't just believe that because there's no proof. There's no proof that it, well, there is proof that it was discontinued. There's no proof that it was continued after that. Uh, so you can believe whatever you want, but there's no proof.
This is very fascinating, and there is a lot of interest to this topic because so
Mhm.
many people want to know past, present, and the future, of course, for their own goals and intentions. But nevertheless, it's also dangerous to look where they're not supposed to look. There are certain areas that, like you mentioned, there's a danger involved. And for the duration of our program, we cannot discuss all the dangers that it entails.
Sure. Yeah.
And probably, hopefully, that we will come back in the future if you agree to come back onto our show to talk about it. But there are dangers associated with viewing, of course, and
Well, there's also ethics.
ethics
I was just
too.
gonna say, yeah, it would be some ethical considerations. It's like that with all the psi phenomena as well.
Very serious. Yeah. Mhm.
And there's also the reason why we don't know many things that are beyond of our understanding. Yes, we want to know, but the future viewing, certain things that we're not supposed to know. For example, when I looked up the time of my death, yes, it is unpleasant to know that I'm not going to live until I'm 80, for example, but nevertheless, we all have a certain amount of time on this earth, and then we
Yeah. Mhm.
transmutate into something else or someone else or somewhere
Mhm.
else. So, just also for these purposes, it is not always convenient to know how long you have left, or how long
No.
other people have left as well, or what will happen in the future, because it will alter supposedly your course of action and the course of your life. Although it has been my understanding, based on my own personal research, that we can't change anything in the future, because
Well,
I have seen.
actually you can. Um,
That gives me hope.
well, I like the analogy that I've heard that life is like playing chess with God. God lets you make all the different moves, and He may make some moves, and you may defeat those moves, and back and forth, and all that. But sooner or later, He's going to win the game. And it's the rock in the pond of time. It's the rock in the pond of your time, our time, my time.
And what if there's no God? Who wins the game then? We
Um,
ourselves? We don't lose?
I guess I don't know. I don't know what happens after death. I know what I would like to happen after death, but there again, I'm waiting for proof.
Or perhaps that was one area you did not go to, because you were involved in a military program, of course, and they were not
No,
interested in what happens in life after
yeah,
death.
no. I was tasked with I think about 64 people, following them through death and out the other side. And I found that some people just quit existing. Some people reincarnate. Some people go to what I would call heaven. Some people go to what I would call hell. And, I had viewed and experienced each one of those. Uh, to my surprise, I never got the fifth one, which was to become a ghost. Uh, I only got those four, but um, afterwards in the feedback, I looked up the lives of the people that I had just been tasked to view, and I didn't find any rhyme or reason in their history, in their written history, that would explain why they went to wherever they went to, where I found them go to. Uh, but those are the four things that I found happen after death. Uh, in the people that I was targeted to view.
This is so fascinating, because I've never heard anyone talk about it. Dr. Elliot and I, we were hypothesizing that the ghosts are the actual holograms that are left of the peoples. In fact, when they were in their physical body, they're holograms left here on Earth. So maybe that was the reason when you couldn't see it.
Could be,
It's
yeah,
fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating,
it
Lynn.
is, yeah.
You have done a lot of incredible research in the area, and many people have benefited from that, and not just people, countries and governments. So we thank you for that. We thank you for first even possessing these extraordinary abilities.
I
And
feel like I'm still in kindergarten, and I'm still researching. I'm still trying to find out, and I'm still trying to get that information out to people when I find it out. So
it's like Ingo Swann, right, who could never be satisfied with anything. I guess this is the
that's right.
area, or just the nature of our inquisitive minds, so that we
Right.
always look for perfection. Well, we thank you so much for coming to our show
Thank you.
today.
Thank you
Uh,
very much for inviting me.
we do hope that you agree to meet with us again to
Oh,
continue this
sure.
fantastic conversation.
Would
Thank
love
you.
to. I've enjoyed talking to you. Thank you.
And we
Yeah,
have
thank
been
you. Very,
live.
Very fascinating, and we thank you for coming
Yeah,
on.
yeah. It's always incredible to have this live conversations because people get to comment and ask us questions.
Mhm.
So we were live on Science and the Paranormal on United Public Radio Network 107.7 FM. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us today and asking us questions, participating in this incredible, incredible conversation. So we hope to see you next Tuesday again at the same time. And Dr. Elliott, we are going to have Dr. Uh, Bustler.
Yes, Dr. Butzer is going to come on, and she's going to talk to us next week about synchronicity. She is a Canadian parapsychologist that teaches overseas, over in Prague. So that'll be a very fascinating conversation.
So come join us. Come join us. And meanwhile, have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Sweet dreams. Good night.
Good night, everyone. Take care.